As someone with a part-time regular job, part-time freelance job, a YouTube channel, and a lot of hobbies, it can sometimes be hard to actually make time for reading. This week, I wanted to show you what a regular week of reading looks like for me. And don't worry, it will be very realistic. Yesterday, I did not read at all, and I read about 10 pages. I am 31 books behind schedule. Good evening. It is Monday evening. I just got home from work, then I had dinner. I took a long, nice shower. I'm in my PJs right now, and it is 8 o'clock. And there is only two things that I want to do tonight. The first thing, of course, is read. I have been reading the Throne of Glass series for a few months now, and I am currently doing the tandem read between Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms, and I am just not getting any further into these books. I started these books like weeks ago, but they're just so inconvenient to read. They're super big. I have to bring two of them. I need to have this like card with all the chapters and when I have to switch. I do have these books on my e-reader as well, but even on my e-reader, it's a bit of a hassle to keep switching between them. But I am determined to make some good progress in these books this week because I just want to have them finished so I can move on to the next book, because I do really love this series and I am really into these books as stories. I am just not reading them because they are so inconvenient to read. And then the second thing I'm doing tonight is baking brownies. I have been craving brownies for weeks, and I was in the supermarket today and I saw this brownie mix and I was like, yes, this is what I'm doing tonight. I'm going to make some brownies. And probably listen to an audiobook, but I did finish my audiobook a few days ago, so I don't currently have one. I get to choose a new one, which is exciting, so I'll keep you updated on which one I choose. It's a little later. I think I read for about 30 to 40 minutes in total. And I only ended up reading around 35 pages, which is one of the problems I have with this tandem read and these books in general, is that it just takes me a long time to get through one page. These are the 6th and 7th book of this series. So we are in the thick of like the storyline. There's a bunch of different characters and you have been introduced to all of them, but it's very hard to keep track of everything, to keep track of all the storylines, and especially with the tandem read, you keep switching between literally different continents of the world. I just read 3 chapters in Tower of Dawn and I was very much like into that story, and then I had to switch to read 1 chapter of Empire of Storms, and the first few pages I just have to read so slowly every time because I have to, remember what happened in the last chapter and what is going on, and it's definitely really interesting and I'm having a lot of fun reading these books, but it's taking me a while. I also decided to read The Spell Shop as an audiobook because I figured it would be fun to have like a cozy fantasy, a little bit more lighthearted storyline alongside the Throne of Glass series. But I have to admit that I didn't really look into what The Spell Shop is actually about. I just saw the cute cover. I heard some friends were excited about reading it, so I thought it would be fun, but it could... That's the thing with these fantasy books, is they look very cute and cozy, but it could turn out to be a not so cute and cozy storyline. We will see. I'm going to try to read a little bit before work tomorrow morning, but if I don't have time, I will see you after work. There is so much noise outside my house today. I am so annoyed. I've been trying to film this for like an hour, but there's just, I don't know what they're doing, but it's very loud. Anyway, good morning. Today is Wednesday. Yesterday, I did not read at all. I did try to read at 2 separate occasions. The first time I tried to read during my break at work, but I read like half a page and then a colleague came into the room and like started chatting with me. So I put my book away and I chatted with my colleague for the rest of my break. Then the second time was in the afternoon. I was meeting a friend for a drink and I was a little bit early. So I was like, yes, I can do some reading. And then once I grabbed my book, she arrived. So she was just there earlier than I expected. So no pages were read yesterday, which is fine. This is supposed to be realistic and there's definitely a lot of days where I don't read at all. Today is Wednesday, like I said, and that is my freelance day. And I do have a lot of work to do, but I'm going to start my day with just making a cup of coffee and reading a few chapters because I am very excited to read.
Is it a homegrown slaw?
Yes, we have to harvest.
Harvest.
This is our indoor little garden and we are growing like a bunch of different things. But our lettuce is growing out of hand, so we need to use it. I bring you harvested lettuce. It is the end of the day and I actually took quite a few moments today to read in between my work. I don't always do that on my freelance days because obviously I have just like regular work to do, but luckily my freelance days are a little bit more open to breaks if I need them. I've been having a pretty busy week at my other job this week. And my freelance days are days where I can be a bit more flexible. So if I need a little bit more breaks, then I can take them on my freelance days, but not on my regular work days. So I try to use that if possible. So today I took a little bit longer of a lunch break and also in the afternoon I took like 15 minutes to read. But then I haven't read at all in the evening because Leora stayed for dinner and then we watched the show together. So I in total only read about 29 pages, but that ended up being like 3 chapters. So I still feel like I did pretty well. I have been feeling a little bit weird about the amount of books I read. I have never been someone who has had like a very clear goal, but usually reading at my own pace ends up being around 107 or 108 books a year, at least for the past 2 years. So this year I set my reading goal on 100 again, just so I can see if I'm like reading more or less than I am usually. And I have been reading a lot less. Like I am 31 books behind schedule. I have read 50 books so far and we're clearly over halfway through the year. I don't know if I feel bad about that. This is a hobby that I love doing, but it's not something that I want to force myself in doing. I'm also reading books that I have never read before. Like I have never read an 800-page fantasy book before and I am currently reading 2. So obviously those books take a lot longer to get through and that's fine. And also this is the year that I started my YouTube channel and I think I don't really realize how much time this is taking up of my free time, because where I would maybe usually have had a full evening to read, I now spend my evening editing or filming videos. Of course, I'm doing this next to my regular job, so I spend a lot of my free time, like the weekends and the evenings, to work on my YouTube videos, and that is time that I would maybe usually spend reading. All of this to say that I think there is a lot of pressure from like the social media world to hit a certain amount of books each year. You see all these people reading 100, 150, 200 books a year, and it can make me feel a little bit like I should be doing that as well, especially trying to be in this book YouTube world. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I haven't finished a book in this video, or oh, I haven't had like a new book to talk about for the past 2 weeks, or I want to do like a recent reads, but I've recently only read 2 books. You know, there can be a lot of pressure felt on reading, but at the end of the day, reading is just a hobby that I love doing, and hopefully you also love doing. And whether that is 5 books a year or 50 books a year or 500 books a year, I think it doesn't really matter. I think we're moving into the period of time where people online start talking about, can I still reach my reading goal, and trying to read 50 books in a week so I can finish my reading goal, blah blah blah. So before we get there, I wanted to just remind you that it doesn't really matter how many books you read, as long as you are having fun and you are enjoying the books, then that's all that matters. Anyway, that is it for today. I will see you tomorrow. I made this like printout bookmark when I started this Tandem read, because I was so tired of having to keep grabbing my phone after every chapter, because there's not a logic to when you have to switch. Like, it's not every other chapter or something. It's like sometimes you read 1 chapter of one book and then 4 chapters of the other. So I printed everything out and I laminated it, so now I keep this in my book as a bookmark. Every time I finish a chapter, I can just read this instead of having to grab my phone. I am now at chapter 23 of Empire of Storms, which is the last chapter of this book before I switch to Tower of Dawn again. Good morning. It is Thursday morning. It is very early. It's like completely dark outside still. My boyfriend had to leave our house at 5:30 this morning, and I woke up when he left, so I have been awake for a little while, which is fine. Usually my alarm goes off at 6 to go to work. So now I just had a little bit of extra time to relax and read in the morning, which is a very lovely way to start the day. And before I go to work, I wanted to quickly chat to you about the audiobook I've been listening to. I haven't listened too much. I think in total I've listened to about an hour, but on Thursdays I usually have quite a lot of time to listen to my audiobook. So I think I will make quite a lot of progress today. So I wanted to talk to you about my thoughts so far, and then maybe I'll update you tonight or tomorrow about how I feel then. So I decided to listen to The Spell Shop because I heard Leora talk about it and she was very excited. And when I told her yesterday that I've been listening to it, she was like, oh my god, isn't it so cute and cozy and like relaxing to listen to? And I was like, well, I've listened to the first like 4 chapters, and so far a lot has been happening. Like in the first chapter there is a fire, and because of that fire the main character has to move. So in the first few chapters you read about the fire, you read about the move. She's like trying to get all her stuff, she's trying to find a safe place to be. So far it has not been relaxing and cute at all. One of the fun things about this book is that you have our main character, which is a human, and then hello, and then her companion throughout the whole book is a plant that can talk. So I think that premise is really fun. And just because of the name, I am assuming that she will start a spell shop in this like new town that she just arrived in, but she hasn't started it yet. So Anyway, I told this to Leora and she was like, okay, but it only happens in the first few chapters and then afterwards it gets really cozy and like not a lot of action will happen again. So I think that's good because that is what I was looking for. Just some like cozy, definitely an interesting storyline, but not something that is like very high stakes, a lot of action, just something a little bit more chill. But I'm definitely having fun listening to this book. I think the tone of voice is really fun and the characters are really fun, and especially the plant is just, it's a really fun character to read about. So I will continue listening to this today and I will keep you posted on how I feel about it. Good morning. It is Friday. Yesterday, the only time I read physically was in the morning before work, and I read about 10 pages. And then in the evening, I was journaling while listening to my audiobook. And I am now about 4.5 hours into the audiobook. I think in total it's like 12 hours, so that means I'm around 1/3 of the way. I am really enjoying the spell shop. It is just so cute. The beginning of the book is very action-packed, but after like chapter 5 or 6, it kind of settles down, and from that moment on, it's so cozy and sweet. There's definitely still a lot happening, like it's not a plotless book at all. I think the plot is really interesting. It's just not that high stakes. It's just this girl trying to build a life for herself and her talking plant in the town that she grew up in but moved out of. She's like renovating this home, trying to make it better. She's trying to find a way to make income. There's also magic and spells and books and relationships with the townspeople and trying to make friends and maybe a romance, I don't know yet. So it's just a really fun, nice book. So I had a great time journaling and listening to it last night, and I am now going to listen to it a little bit more, maybe read a little bit more physically as well. So I will keep you posted on how my day goes. Alright, it is a couple of hours later on Friday, and I am actually going to end the video here. Weekends for me in terms of reading are very 50-50. If I have no plans, I love to spend a lot of time on the weekends reading. But if I do have plans, there's also a lot of weekends where I just don't touch my books at all. This weekend I am going to visit my best friend who lives about 3 hours away, and I just know that maybe I'll read on the train right there, but I'm not going to bring my 2 big books, so I will be reading something else. And besides that, I really won't be reading when I'm at her place. But then there's other weekends where I have a full Sunday off and I'm just on my couch with a cup of tea and my book and I'm reading like 100 pages in a day. I just know this weekend won't be one of those weekends, so I am going to end the vlog here. I ended up listening to about half of The Spell Shop, which is a little bit more than 150 pages. And I think in total I read about 100 pages of the Throne of Glass series. And no, that is not that much, but I did read almost every day this week, and that is one of the goals that I had for this year in terms of my reading. I noticed that I sometimes would be very into a book and then I would read a lot on one day, but then if the book was done, it would take me a while to get into a new book, and I wouldn't read for like a week because I wasn't into the new book yet, or I hadn't chosen a new book yet. And this year I've been really trying to at least read a couple of pages every day, because that way I just enjoy the story a lot more. So I hope it was fun to see how a reading week for me goes. Obviously this depends on the week, and maybe a different week I will read a lot more or a lot less. So if you are interested, I could do a video like this more often. While we're on the topic, I have been really enjoying reading your guys' comments in general, but especially if you have like either book recommendations or video recommendations. I love hearing what you guys are reading, what you guys are into, and also what kind of videos you are enjoying to see. So if you want to, you can leave me a comment. I would love to read it. For now, thank you so much for watching. If you want to, you can subscribe, and I will hopefully see you again next week. Bye!